Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so we are only a few days away now from the start of the anniversary and the release of all the new units. I've already done videos talking about which banner I think is best. And somebody did actually suggest during a recent live stream that an interesting idea for a video that, you know, some of the people in the chat agreed that they would be interested in seeing is a bit of a little guide, not going to be super long, but about the best hidden potential build options for all of the new anniversary units. So I'm going to cover the free-to-play units and then of course the two new LRs and the side banner units. Like I say, it's not going to be a super long guide. I'm just going to go over what I think are some of the better things to go for. Obviously, you know, hidden potential to a certain degree can be somewhat subjective. I think, you know, there are certain units where it's pretty clear what you want to prioritize, and then there are some where you can kind of go either way, and so it's really down to your play style and how you would want to use them in teams. I think, like, for example, I am a 3 dodge enthusiast. Most people know that about me at this point, so I'm going to probably, you know, I don't have to mention it every single time, but unless I say otherwise, all of these units I would probably give 3 dodge. I'll only bring up dodge, I guess, if I would give them more or not give them any. Because for me, as much as I do like 3 dodge, if a unit has like 50% or more dodge built into their kit, then I don't usually give them 3 dodge. Sometimes I will. It all depends. So, we're going to start with the login bonus card. We're not going to spend a huge amount of time on this because I imagine there's probably a lot of people out there, apart from maybe just to mess around and have a run with them just to see what they're like. Unless you're a newer player or someone with not a strong box, maybe you've been playing a couple of months but you're free to play. This unit is not bad, but I imagine a lot of people are probably not going to use them. So, when we look at them, they do raise attack and defense for 7 turns on their super attack effect. And then they build up. The rest of their passive is basically just building up a little bit each and every turn. Then they get a bit of an attack buff from the 7th turn onwards. And then they perform a guaranteed critical hit if you pick up 7 or more key spheres. So usually when a unit can do something guaranteed, you try and avoid giving them that in the hidden potential system. But this guaranteed crit is locked behind picking up 7 orbs, which is not always going to be the easiest thing to do. So with this unit, considering they can stack their attack and defense quite a few times, right? 7 turns, so it means even for the first couple of turns, any additional supers are going to keep building up those stacks quicker and quicker, which with a unit like this, you obviously want them to be built up as soon as possible. They are a tech unit, so they're going to get the free level 5 crit anyway. So I would obviously go for giving them as much additional as possible, the 3 dodge, and then any other points remaining you could sink into crit. You could put some other ones into dodge. Like if you feel like you're only really ever going to use this unit on teams where you say are going to be running a bunch of orb changes, and so you're pretty confident that you're going to be able to hit that 7 key sphere requirement almost every time they're on rotation, then I would put the extra points into dodge, because obviously any points into crit are not really going to be worth it. So I would go max additional, and then the secondary ability is crit or dodge, depending on how you are going to use the unit. So the other unit that releases on day 1 is this farmable Teen Gohan. The event that you can farm him from does have the first stage for medals, where he will awaken into the Gohan and Goten. So we're not able to awaken him into the LR straight away, but obviously they are going to awaken into an LR, so you want to plan their hidden potential around what that LR is then going to look like. Because the LR, just like the previous anniversary ones with the Zamasu in Goku's body and Master Roshi, does end up getting an easy A straight away. So even though you're only going to have the unit as a TUR on the first day of the anniversary, you obviously want to plan the hidden potential around what that unit is going to end up looking like. So, they raise attack and defense on their 12 key, they massively raise attack on their 18 key, they have an entrance animation, and then they get a nice little solid buff. They get obviously buffs for having different allies on the team, and especially when they're attacking in the same turn. So other than that, they don't get any sort of like build up, they don't have guaranteed additionals or guaranteed crits or anything like that. All these things with the allies being on rotation with them are basically just giving them ki and then extra defense or attack or both. So their hidden potential is completely up in the air. I would personally go for more additional because their 12 ki super attack raises attack and defense. So obviously the ideal turn is when you hit their 18 ki super and then they get an additional, which of course for an LR is always going to be the 12 ki, and then that raises their defense. Because in more difficult content, if you are using them, sometimes it's going to be more beneficial to go for their 12 ki super deliberately to raise their defense, so they're going to be able to tank better. And then of course on those turns, if you then get the additional super, then they're getting the double defense raise. So again, as a tech unit, they get the free level 5 crit. I would give them the 3 dodge, as much additional as possible, and then put the rest into crit, because obviously you do still want them to get crits to deal damage. But again, this unit I would go mostly additional. So the other unit releasing on day 1 is the Chichi, who will eventually awaken into Goku and Chichi and then get an easy A. So again, this is what we're going to go by. Their super attack greatly raises attack, so that's infinite stack, and raises defense for 1 turn, does supreme damage to the enemy. They get a pretty decent set of stats, and then they get an additional 22% attack and defense per attack performed, up to 4 times. They launch an additional attack that has a high chance of becoming a super, and then they do support as well. So they already have additional built into their passive, and they're an AGL unit, so they start with level 5 additional. So you are going to want to give them a decent amount of additional attack because they raise defense on super. They need to attack 4 times in order to be fully built up. But because they have that built-in chance to do an additional super, it's always going to be a guaranteed additional normal, which means it increases the chance that it will trigger your hidden potential additional, even if that is only a normal attack. So very often you'll be able to see them super, normal attack additional, and then the additional from the hidden potential will kick in. So whilst you do want to give them a bit of additional, remember that they are AGL, so they're starting out with 5. You do want to give them some crit in order for them to do a little bit of damage. And then of course at the same time they are a support unit. So if you're primarily going to be running this unit as a 3rd slot floating unit, you want them to be getting that defense, but a little bit of dodge can always be nice as well. So again, this unit kind of comes down to how you're going to use them, because additionals are obviously really good for them to build up their defense and to build up their stats. But because they're a support unit, if you're floating them in slot 3, it's not all about damage for this unit, right? They don't need to do a crazy amount of damage. So you could go full additional and then all the rest into dodge, to the point where you literally give them 0 crit. But then of course you are hampering their damage dealing abilities, especially against tech enemies. But it just depends what you want to use the unit for, because they do have an active skill that does damage. So of course damage dealing active skill units, it is very beneficial to have crit, because then the active skill can crit as well. So for this unit, I think I personally, I won't really worry about going super dodge heavy. I would obviously again give them the 3 dodge. I think I would go a pretty even mix of additional and crit, leaning a little bit more into additional, just because this guaranteed extra attack they have in their passive is going to make triggering the additional attack a bit easier anyway. So next up we have the Vegeta. They release on day 1 as well and awaken into Vegeta and Bulma together. They again are a support unit for Vegeta family. They get decent start of turn stats. They get additional attack and defense on performing a super. They have a little bit of damage reduction, and then they change into the battle armor. They also raise attack for 1 turn on super, so no like defense raise unfortunately. And then when they change into the battle armor, their stats are basically just a little bit higher, right? More stats, more on super, more damage reduction, medium chance of reduced damage additionally by 22%, which is pretty cool. So they could actually get 44% damage reduction, but that's only a 30% chance that that will activate. And then their support goes up a little bit as well. So unfortunately, this unit is probably the least useful out of the free-to-play ones, I would probably say, other than as like a support if you really are lacking Vegeta family support units. They have no defensive utility whatsoever. So honestly, this is a unit that I would actually probably go more dodge than anything else. They're a physical unit, so they get level 5 additional. They do raise attack for 1 turn, but obviously they have no way to crit. They're not going to be doing crazy damage. So honestly, with this unit, you could go for like maybe a little bit of extra additional and a little bit of crit, and then honestly I would put the most points into dodge. Because remember, if a unit doesn't get that ability for free, so like a physical unit doesn't get dodge, the maximum you can put that stat up to is 15. For me personally, I would probably give this unit 15 dodge, and then they get 5 additional, and then I'd probably just put the rest in crit, just in case they will occasionally crit. Because this unit, again, is going to be a 3rd slot floating support unit most of the time, and they don't have any defensive utility. So I think putting in that dodge is probably the way to go. So, on to the big guns now. So we have the LR Gods from the first banner. Now, these guys stack attack and defense on both of their super attacks, which is obviously very good. They guard on turn 1, so remember turn 1 they are going to be very good defensively. And then if you get 20 key with them, they get a guaranteed additional super attack. It's not even an additional attack that can become a super. It's 20 key, you get a guaranteed additional super. So again, they're a tech unit, 5 crit. This unit, I would go for a pretty decent mix of crit and additional. Remember, if you get 24 key, their attacks are effective against all types. So they're going to do a bunch of extra damage even without having to crit. So I would probably lean more towards additional. So obviously you get that free level 5. Make sure you get the additional up to full and then just put the rest into crit. Give them 3 dodge. You don't have to give them 3 dodge for this unit in particular. I would, because pre-transformed they obviously can't dodge, and then after they've transformed they are able to dodge. They get a 7% dodge chance per rainbow sphere, which obviously depends how many orbs you pick up, but then they do also have a medium chance to dodge as well. So you don't necessarily need to give them a load of dodge. I think 3 dodge would still be fine, just because pre-transformed they don't have any dodge chance. But yeah, I would go max additional, right? Because if you're hitting enough key to get effective against all types, it really doesn't matter if you crit. So, and they are starting with 5 crit anyway. So you'd go like, what would it end up being? It'd be like 15 additional, 8 crit, 3 dodge, basically, for these guys. And then we have the side banner unit Broly. So nobody really talks about this Broly. I don't think I've actually ever seen anyone do a video of him in Movie Boss's ESBR. So it's definitely something I'm going to look forward to doing. He raises attack and defense on his super attack. He gets decent stats, gets a bit of a buff when performing a super. He has some abilities that are orb related, disabling guard with 2 orbs, an additional super with 6 orbs, and attacks effective against all types when the enemy is at 80% or less HP. And if you deliver the final blow, you get some HP recovery as well. So he's an STR unit, so he gets 3 level 5 crit. I think he's a unit that you could probably justify going full additional for as well, because his super attack raises attack and defense for 1 turn. Now, if you pick up 6 orbs, you're getting a guaranteed additional super, so you're getting that guaranteed second raise. But then, of course, if you then trigger the hidden potential, you're getting the triple super. That's another attack and defensive raise. And his attacks are effective against all types when the enemy is 80% or less HP, which makes critting not really a huge priority for him. And as an STR unit, he starts with 5 crit anyway, so he's a unit that you could go, again, full additional, give him the 3 dodge, and then put the rest into crit. When it comes to skill orbs for these units, you just want to prioritize the maximized ability, right? So for most of the, funnily enough, for most of these units so far, it's pretty much been additional. But you can counterbalance, right? Like if you want to have a mix of the two, you can go full additional in the hidden potential and then give them like a level 3 crit skill orb or something to catch up crit to additional a little bit. But honestly, for a unit like Broly and maybe even the gods, I would just still go additional with the skill orbs as well. So then we have the LR Super Saiyan 4s. Now the LR Super Saiyan 4s and the LR gods, apart from some minor differences, they are very, very similar. Now, these guys are physical, so they come with level 5 additional. So you do want to put some crit in there, but these guys are going to be able to have a higher additional stat than the gods because they start with that level 5. So because they're also able to get attacks effective against all types, crit is not as important with this unit as it is with some other units. So if you went full additional without skill orbs, you can get them to 20 additional. And then if you did want to do dodge, they'd have 3 dodge and 3 crit. Now, 3 crit obviously seems a little bit low, but then this is the perfect kind of unit that you could put a level 3 or level 4 crit skill orb, and then they're going to have like 20 additional and 7 crit, which, as long as you're getting the attacks effective against all types, the crit is not hugely important. and then 20 additional, especially if you're hitting this 20 or more key to get a guaranteed additional super, you're going to see them triple super very regularly. And then once you've transformed into Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you know, it pretty much just flows along the same lines. Instead of getting the dodge chance, he gets damage reduction as you pick up Rainbow Orbs. And then, of course, he has a chance to counter super attacks. So, just like the gods, nothing really changes about this. The only difference is, of course, he doesn't have any dodge at all, unless, you know, super attack counters don't really count, even though they do work like dodging. So if dodge is disabled, you can't counter super attacks with Gogeta, but he doesn't have any way to dodge normal attacks. So he is a unit that I definitely would still give the level 3 dodge, but then he is able to build up damage reduction. So again, with the attacks effective against all types, the more supers he does, the more damage he's going to do. And obviously, they don't stack once they transform, but the LRs are still giving themselves a huge stat buff with each super attack. So additionals are the way to go with these guys. And then the last one is Sin Shenron, the side banner unit for the Super Saiyan 4s. He raises attack and defense for 1 turn on super attack. He gets a decent amount of start of turn defense as well as attack. He creates rainbow orbs, and then if you pick up 2, 3, 4 orbs, he's just getting more and more attack and defense. He disables enemies guard with 5 orbs, and he has a high chance to crit with 6 orbs, which, because he creates rainbow orbs, getting 6 orbs of him is actually not that difficult. And then if you get 7 orbs, he has a high chance to launch an additional super as well as more attack and defense. So this guy, apart from dodging, he basically does everything as long as you pick up 7 orbs. He has the high chance to crit, and then he has the high chance of launching an additional super. So honestly, you can really go any way with this guy. Because he creates his own orbs, it's not that hard to hit 7 orbs with him. Now obviously, because he raises attack and defense as his super attack effect, giving him some additional is always going to be good. He's another tech unit, so he starts with level 5 crit. So I could honestly see, with the reliability that he's going to have to pick up those 7 orbs, starting with that level 5 crit, you could give him, what, like 6 additional, and then literally just give him 15 dodge, because he doesn't, that's the only ability that he doesn't have in his actual kit. And I think that's going to be really good for this guy, because you are very regularly going to be able to pick up 6 or 7 orbs. You've got that little bit of additional chance that can help be procced by getting the additional super. And then, of course, the dodge gives him a little bit of defensive utility. Now, obviously, if you try him out a little bit, especially if you haven't got dupes for him straight away, and you are finding, like, on the team that you run him on, I was going to say teams, but let's be fair, you're really only running him on Shadow Dragons, or like a GT Bosses build that is mostly Shadow Dragons. But if you're finding that you're not regularly able to pick up those 7 orbs, then additional is going to be the way to go, just because of his super attack effect. So, a lot of these units pretty much all are full additional, but there are a few nuances in there, so hopefully this does help you guys out a little bit when it comes to planning what you want to do. Let me know your thoughts down below on how you want to build these characters, and hopefully we get good luck and actually all pull dupes so we can do these hidden potential builds. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new, check out the links down below for the Discord and the merch store, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.